We are an experience-rich society. We crave experiences. From a tiny projected chef that makes us dinner, to walking through David Hockney's paintings, to multi-day festivals that take us to different planets. So we need to reflect society and the massive changes we've encountered in our everyday lives to enhance and promote education in business environments. I'm an experienced design director for an events agency in London. I trained as an actor before moving into strategy and events. Now I work with global organizations to mix these two worlds together to create truly immersive moments. My training in acting taught me how to involve and engage audiences. Theatre can pull at your heartstrings, make you think, change your mind, things that our clients are also interested in doing today. My early experience in theatre made me think about and question the actual environments in which we communicate with our audience. So let's have a think and have a look at the history. So the Greeks invented theatre, and they did so in amphitheatres in the open air. In the Middle Ages, theatre took the form of processions through town streets. Shakespeare, perhaps the greatest exponent of theatre that's ever lived, and half of his audiences were standing up. And then we stuck to the same model for a few centuries. Audiences sat in rows of seats in darkened rooms. Until along came Punch Drunk, a global immersive experience theatre company. Their founder, Felix Barrett, had a mission to change how theatre was experienced and designed. In fact, he's to have said, burn the seats. Punch Drunk create experiences that allow the audience to find their own path, surrounding them with stimulus to finding their own takeaways, creating arguably one of the most famous theatre companies across the globe. They involve audiences in miraculous ways. They are described as trailblazers, pioneers of ultra-immersive theatre, world-conquering rebels, and theatre for the interactive age. And all of this is done by burning the seats, metaphorically. And I believe that we have to do the same with ours. So we have to burn this. This is a hotel chair. And to me, it says everything about corporate events. Water jugs on green baize tablecloths, swirly pattern carpets, miles and miles of corridors with bland rooms coming out of them. Our clients ask us to do an amazingly difficult job, like change someone's mind or broaden someone's horizons. They ask us to inspire and engage. And our answer is this chair. A sour cup of coffee and a stale pastry in a grey room. But we have so many other amazingly powerful tools in our armory. So let's give it a bit more context. Our world has changed drastically. From your smart speaker waking you up in the morning to tell you the news and the weather, to new streaming experiences in which order you watch the program defines the story that you are told, to short-form content platforms like TikTok. In the workplace, we are back to back, not giving ourselves a chance to breathe or reflect on what we're working on. This is our new normal. So why do we put education and continuous professional development in a dusty old box? Replicating the same monotonous experiences time and time again, and still complaining that no one is learning anything new. Education doesn't stop at school or university. Continuous professional development is an intrinsic part of everyone's working lives, no matter what industry you work in. So with this presentation, I want to share with you 3 simple ways of changing things up that can bring a new life to your event and business education. Look around the room. Each one of us in this room is different. Often, we treat audiences as the same brain, giving them the same experiences and not taking into consideration external factors, learning types, neurodiversity, or in fact, what role they are within their own company. Often, messages remain top line, or they're being force-fed a narrative that isn't going to benefit them when they leave the room and eventually forget. That needs to change. We need to give our audience members their main character moment. They need choice. We need to put our audiences in the center of the action, giving them total control and ownership of the experience to follow their own interests. I want to share with you an example. This was for the launch of a digital tool for Santander. The tool was created as a resource for small, medium businesses to find export opportunities across the globe, putting Santander at the center of that transaction. Export can be a complex, bureaucratic process that a lot of people shy away from because of the enormity of the task, and it is really boring. So we distilled down this process into 6 simple steps, creating individual spaces for each to allow the audience to experience them at their own pace. Different spaces were created to cater for different learning styles on play at different senses, like the smoothie bar, for instance, where you could grab a smoothie, take a seat, and listen to podcasts of other companies and their experiences. This approach blew Santander's expectations out of the water, gaining 7 times more sign-ups to the platform than initially predicted for this event alone. By surrounding them with stimulus, we were able to get them to connect with ideas and to one another. Learning boils down to connecting. Learning traditionally comes from storytelling and conversing with others to learn new skills. We are social animals, so connecting is part of our makeup. Business audiences continually rate relationship building as a primary reason they go to business events. So being able to create spaces full of stimulus, allowing them to connect over those mutual interests, is key to getting the best out of our audiences. Visa took this approach for their flagship client event in Dublin. Our design borrowed ideas from urban architecture, creating spaces to dwell and converse, but also surrounding them with stimulus to start conversations with peers and experts. Each space was created to connect with partners and with Visa, but also with one another, creating a community of connections made by being at the Visa event, thus boosting Visa's perceived influence in business connections. Creating spaces that allow connections brings me to my final thought: communities. Building those connections through our careers helps us build our own communities. Events need to nurture and facilitate these whilst we experience the same things, go on the same journeys, and learn and build as a group. Being able to take a group of people into one space and leave with the same amount of understanding, ownership, and drive is what we strive for when creating events. My final example is for National Grid for COP26. They wanted to create a space for young engineers to come together to create those connections that will live with them through their future careers. Following the pandemic, a lot of these students didn't have the same university experience others did in the past. And it being a global community, a digital tool will have to be created to facilitate this endeavor. So we built a virtual eco-park in the Scottish Highlands that ran at the same time as COP did in Glasgow. Spaces were created for community channels to discuss problems or common barriers of young people starting out in their careers. People were also promoted to show off their own work, but also connect with others to make those connections and build their own community. We saw young engineers from over 100 countries join over those 2 days, making 38 million media impressions whilst the event was live. So reflecting our environment and the way that we are consuming media must reflect the way in which we educate our people. We have to understand that we are working with humans and not delegates, and each one of us has a completely different way to learn. So sometimes when it comes to events and continuous learning, we just need to burn the seats. Thank you.